George Washington once said that government is not reason, it is not eloquence, it is force, like fire, a troublesome servant, and a fearful master. Never for a moment should be left to irresponsible action. Well, we've left it to irresponsible action. We have become comfortable with certain tyrannies in our society, tyrannies that we don't even realize exist, but they're the reason why we're where we're at now. We've become comfortable with tyranny of the mob. Every time a group gets mad, they just go out, riot, pillage, plunder, destroy property, and we don't do anything about it. Instead, we make excuses for them and call them mostly peaceful protests. We've become comfortable with tyranny of the bureaucracy. If you think about it, everything about our lives is governed by some bureaucratic agency after another. But do we question it? No, it's just a part of life. No matter who we vote into office, the bureaucracy remains the same, and then we wonder why things are so bad. We've become comfortable with the tyranny of career politicians. In fact, you're probably having a career politician talk to you now. I'm willing to bet, named Alex Mooney. He's been there for 10 years, but he's not the only one. Our Congress, including our state legislatures, are full of people who have been there almost as long as I've been alive. I happen to be 40. We have become comfortable with the tyranny of ignorance, especially willful ignorance. Nobody wants to know the real truth about something because that might damage our perceptions of the world. So instead, we lie to ourselves. We allow others to lie to us. We choose ignorance over the truth. The truth that our government no longer works for us. The truth that many of the people running for office only care about themselves and their own political behinds and staying in a job because they're afraid they just might end up in the unemployment line. We have become comfortable with it. The truth can slap us in the face and we'll still deny it. Which brings me to the tyranny of lies. We allow lies to govern us. One of those lies would be the 1619 Project that's been published and is being taught in our schools, even though prominent historians, including liberal historians, have denounced it as being full of false information. But it's not just that. We have become comfortable with the lie that kids can change their gender and there's like 97 million genders now. I can't keep up with it, and I'm sure you can't either if you've been paying attention. Or we allow the politicians who've been in office forever to tell us that they're fighters. They're fighting for us. They're the only true conservative. And on the Democrat side, I guess they're the only true Democrat. But we never question it. We don't look at what they've accomplished. We don't ask what they have done in the last 10 years. We have become comfortable with the tyranny of complacency and or apathy. We sit here and wonder why we're living in a world with purple-haired idiots that sit there and yell death to America. But we fail to understand that our apathetic ways, our complacency, our willingness to stay buried in our phones, to stay buried in our daily lives, and to focus only on what is directly in front of our nose, and to not pay attention to what is going on around us, is why we're where we're at today. How do you think the politicians got away with taking away our rights? How do you think they got away with the lockdowns that happened in 2020? How do you think they get away with being in office forever, even though they lied to us repeatedly? How do you think they got away with passing laws like the Patriot Act, which took away some of our rights? How do you think they just got away with passing a most recent legislation in the House called the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, which is a blatant violation of the First Amendment? It's because we weren't paying attention. The tyranny of complacency. We're comfortable with the tyranny of immorality. We're allowing kids to go through sex changes. We sit there and we allow our children to be sexualized. There's videos on the internet of 10-year-olds dancing at a strip club for adult men. And we're okay with that. The parents are even okay with that. We've become comfortable with it. Without a moral compass, how can any nation survive? We have become comfortable with the tyranny of fear. We allow the government, the media, and those in power, including many who will be speaking to you tonight, to control us through fear. If you don't vote for me, why, you'll just end up with a liberal. Okay, great, but what the hell has a conservative done for us lately? Other than now pass hate speech laws under the guise of anti-Semitism, blatantly violating the First Amendment. And violating their oath of office, by the way. An oath that they swear before God and country, but clearly they didn't take it seriously. We have become comfortable with the tyranny of tribalism. We split ourselves into groups and subgroups, and we won't listen to anyone with a different opinion. In fact, you're probably getting a little pissed off at me, and that's good. The question is, will you listen to me? Or are you going to go back to your echo chamber, to people who say what you want to hear and make you feel comfortable so you don't have to think about anything? If that's the case, go back home. You're one of the reasons why this country sucks right now. The tyranny of tribalism. If we keep dividing ourselves into groups and we don't listen to one another, we will divide ourselves to the point where there will be no unity. Because we've forgotten one very important fact. We're all Americans. We are. It's time we start acting like it. It doesn't matter anymore if you're a Republican or a Democrat, because half the time they're two sides of the same coin. So maybe we should start acting like Americans. Maybe we should start talking about American values, not Democrat values, not Republican values, not conservative values, but American values. Because that is what matters. That is what unites us, if you even care about that. We have also become comfortable with the tyranny of self-righteousness. Have you ever noticed that the people in power always talk to you like they're on the moral high ground? As though they're better than you. As though they know more than you. Haven't you noticed that? Self-righteousness. I call it a bloated ego. Maybe it's time we start knocking them down to size. How about the tyranny of constant war? We are very comfortable with that. How many wars have we been in since World War II? Should we name them all? I know we just got out of a 20-year war in Afghanistan, and for what? To give it right back to the Taliban? What about the 20 years? Well, I think it was 20 years we spent in Iraq. For what? What exactly was accomplished? Other than the fact that we allowed the rise of ISIS because we completely destabilized an entire region of the world. We're constantly at war. Every decade we're at war. I don't even remember a time when we weren't fighting a war, and now we're looking at going into the Ukraine or going back into the Middle East. For what? Does it serve American interests to constantly be sending our men and women overseas to fight a war that we have no business fighting, while our border is wide open and a bunch of foreign nationals, many of whom are soldiers, by the way, military-age men, are coming through unchecked, unvetted, and being shipped across the country, paid for by your tax dollars, by the way. Oh, and both sides are comfortable with this because they haven't done a darn thing to put an end to it. It will destroy us. It is destroying us. We have also become comfortable with the tyranny of never-ending debt. What's the number now? 34.4 trillion is our national deficit, or our national debt. And it's estimated that we'll be adding $1 trillion to that debt every 100 days. Pretty soon it'll be $1 trillion of debt added every 1 month. And I suspect before the end of the year, we're going to be at $36 trillion in debt. This is trillions. I remember when we used to balk at billions being spent. And my mother remembers when we used to have kittens whenever millions was spent. But now we're just spending trillions, as though we have all the money in the world. But this is what happens when you have a government that prints and spends at will, and that refuses to live by a budget. But this is also what happens when we don't make them. The tyranny of constant debt. And we wonder why our kids are in debt. Well, I suspect they are taking their cue from our own government. These are the tyrannies that we have become comfortable with. These are the real reasons why we are experiencing horrible things like a wide open border, or a government that doesn't care about us, a government that has spent us into oblivion to the point where we will face an economic collapse if we don't stop the spending. This is why we are almost on the verge of war with Ukraine. This is why now our government wants us to sign a 10-year deal with the Ukraine to give them $1 trillion. Do you want that? This is why our government routinely sends money over to Israel or the Middle East. Or how about when we send money to Pakistan for gender studies? Because apparently they care about that over there. We have the problems we have today because of the tyrannies we have become comfortable with. Because we stopped caring. We checked out. We decided to vote for the person that made us feel good, who said all the right things, had all the right key words, and called themselves, well, if you're a Republican, we voted for the one that said that they were a true conservative, a real fighter, a real go-getter. Okay, yeah, sure, where's the evidence of that? What were they fighting for, by the way? To spin us broke? Let a bunch of foreign nationals into our country? Or do basically flip us the bird after they got in office? Is that what they were fighting for? Because it seems to be. Is that what you wanted? It's not what I wanted. That's why I'm so ticked. You know, I know you're sitting here wondering why I'm not kissing your butts. Well, I don't do that. See, I'm a different kind of person. I'm the kind of person that tells you how it is straight up. I'm the kind of person that's so brutally honest with you, you're going to hate my guts. But at least you know I won't have a knife pointed at your back. I'm the kind of person that sees the oath of office that is sworn as a sacred oath that is sworn before God and country. That means it is not to be broken under any circumstance, because you will answer to God for it if you don't answer to your countrymen first. I'm the sort of person that is not a politician. I'm a citizen who's sick and tired of the way things are. So I decided to do something about it, the only thing I could think of. See, we need real people in office. People who care about America to the point where they are willing to stand alone if they have to, just to do the right thing. And I also won't kiss your butts because I know exactly what comes out of it. I spent 2 years as a janitor. I've cleaned plenty of bathrooms. So you have to decide what you want. You can vote for the career politician if you want. Go ahead. You can vote for Alex Mooney, who basically wants you to believe that only him and Jim Justice are the only ones running in this race, and that somehow the entire Senate race is between those two and will be decided in the primary. Funny, there's 5 other people running in the Republican primary and 3 people running in the Democrat primary, and anything can happen between now and November. Maybe you should wonder why he's not being completely honest. I can't tell you what Jim Justice is saying because I haven't heard him speak. But I do wonder about a man that thinks it's okay to spend money, waste money, or lock us down for a virus that had a 99% recovery rate, thus taking away our rights. So you go ahead. If you're more comfortable with that, you vote for the career politician. You vote for the one that makes you feel good. You go ahead, vote for the one that kisses your butt. You better be looking for that knife that's going to be pointed right at your back. Or you can do a little something different. You can actually take control. You can actually think for a change. Instead of reacting, be proactive. Vote for the one person that stands alone. Vote for the one person that tells you how it is. Maybe you should vote for the one person that's staring at you right now. A little something different, huh? You want a tactical advantage? Send Congress what they don't see coming. Either way, you might want to remember some of these principles that we were founded upon as a nation. The principles of individual liberty, right to property, which is under attack every day in this country, and the right to self-determination, which again is under attack every day in this country by both Republicans and Democrats, including those who call themselves conservative. Equal justice under the law, which we all know isn't currently happening. And of course, the right to exist as a country, as a sovereign nation, which I have to wonder if we still are one, considering we seem to constantly be acting like the world's whore, or I should say the world's pimp, handing out money whenever they come asking for it, or more like demanding it, like Zelensky does. So you decide, what do you want? Do you want more of the same? Do you want another politician? Do you want another person that says all the right things and makes you yell amen like you're in church? Or do you want someone who's currently ticking you off right now? Because what I'm saying is completely true. Very true. You decide, because you're going to get what you vote for. But I do ask that we start using a little common sense, because God knows we need more of that. My name is Janet McNulty. I am running for the United States Senate in West Virginia. I'm about as real as you're going to get.